And a good Thursday evening, everybody. Chris McDonald back at it here on the 30th day of January, 2025. We are grateful to have you, and we continue to monitor the breaking news and coming out of Washington, D.C. tonight about this horrible, tragic crash that took place about this time last night. It happened around 9 o'clock Eastern. We had just got off our face show when we saw the terrible news and so forth. I wish we could keep that word presumed dead in the headline tonight, but it has been confirmed that all 67 passengers, 64 of which was on American Flight 5342, and then 3 that were on the Black Hawk helicopter that crashed into the plane. The soldiers have been killed, and everything now is pretty much a recovery effort by the Coast Guard and other first responders, and we want to just tip our hat tonight to the Coast Guard and to these first responders. It was a once probably something that's not happened and seen in D.C. for nearly 40 years. The last time something like this was even remotely on the radar like this was probably 1982, and this has been the first real crash we've had since 2009. But reports are coming out tonight that more and more it's looking like that this DEI, this FAA has been in complete chaos, and we've just been, I hate to use the word lucky, but we have just been lucky that there's not been more of what happened last night. There's also a report that they were warned for months at Reagan, and the FAA was ignoring these warnings, as was Pete Buttigieg's Department of Transportation over the last 4 years, that these flights paths of the helicopters coming out of the Army, these training exercises, were precariously crisscrossing some of the paths these jets were taking. And one report I read tonight or heard about was that the helicopter was about 200 feet higher than it should have been. It usually flies around 200 feet above ground. It was 400 feet above where it was at, and that would have put it right on the direct path of the jet that it crashed into. We've got an unconfirmed report that the female was she was flying the plane, only had 500 hours of training, which is nothing when you get down to it on these training flights. And we're going to try to get some folks on in the next few weeks. We tried today to reach out to some folks. We just didn't have a lot of success with it that would help us understand this a little bit better, but that's okay. We'll deal with it tonight ourselves, and maybe we'll get some more expert insight to this. But the bottom line is our country has suffered loss of 67 of its precious people, and this fatal crash over the Potomac. I wish we had more answers for you tonight than we do. We don't. I wish I could tell you 100% certainty that we do know why this happened. We don't, and neither do any of you. And I don't mean that to be bad and mad or mean, but we had people in there this morning that, they want to make all sorts of assumptions about whether it's deliberate or not. And folks, we're not going to put up with that tonight. So please don't be putting crap in my chat. Not in the mood for it. But what I want to do is show you a couple of videos. There was some new video that basically emerged today of another angle of this crash, and I want to show that to you tonight. We're grateful to have you, by the way. Before we get going, I am grateful to have everyone with us tonight. We hope that you are having a good day, and so forth. And Eve, we're very aware that the whole skating team was on there. It wasn't the whole skating team. There was about 14, and please just leave us to the talking. We'll take your comments at the end of the show and get your insight. There was a skating team, but it was both Russian and America. There was about 14 members of the American skating team that was on there. But the bigger question tonight is why a Black Hawk helicopter would fly into a jet, and it's becoming more and more clear that the instructions that were coming from that tower air control tower last night was so ambiguous and so unclear. President Trump even chimed in on this last night on Truth Social. I'll go ahead and read you his statement. And this was, I think, an hour, within the hour of what happened last night. It was 21 hours ago on Truth. And he said the airplane was on a perfect and routine line of approach to the airport. The helicopter was going straight at the airplane for an extended period of time. And when the video, all the videos that we've seen basically corroborate that. It is a clear night. The lights on the plane were blazing. Why didn't the helicopter go up or down or turn? $1 million question. Nobody knows that right now. Why didn't the control tower tell the helicopter what to do instead of asking if they saw the plane? Another $1 million question. And we'll get into some of the political weeds of this tonight, because the political weeds, and we're going to deal with these confirmation hearings tonight too, but the political weeds is that CNN, the Crap News Network, and the Dems, at least a few of these moronic ones, are blaming Trump for this. Trump wasn't in charge of the FAA for the last 4 years. Trump wasn't in charge of the country for the last 4 years. That was Joe Biden and Pete Buttigieg, who's out there trying to cover his butt. And I would say something really, 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 really nasty about that right now, but I'll leave that alone for right now. But this does not lay, Trump's not been in office but a week and 4 days. And this is how sick Washington, D.C. is tonight. And I'm not here to put blame even on the Dems, even though their policies and their DEI practices, we spent $1 billion in 2022. Do you realize that we put $1 billion into Pete Buttigieg's diversity program with the roads, that he was trying to cure climate change and racism? I saw a tweet today that somebody sent to me, and they said basically that Pete Buttigieg would have blamed this on racism, blamed it on climate change if this would have happened under his watch, and he would have. And President Trump pretty much handed him his backside today. I wish I had the video. I've got it somewhere. He basically told the country and told the world to Pete Buttigieg's face, "You're full of shit." That's what he told him on national television today. Now, tip my hat to the president. This is a bad situation that looks like it should have been prevented. Not good. I totally agree with the president. It could have been prevented, but it wasn't. And we've got 67 grieving families tonight. And this cannot happen again. It just cannot happen again. They're going to have to get this straight in that airport. I want you to look at this video. This is a pretty disturbing video. This is another angle of the crash last night. And we're going to show it to you. I think this is it right here. Yeah, this is a different angle of the crash, a little bit more up close than what you probably saw last night. Roll the tape, and you'll see exactly what President Trump said. This helicopter was flying for a while, folks. It's not like it just, lifted off the airport and slammed into the airplane. Watch this. Here it is. Right there. Let me play that again. You can see it to the left right there, seconds before it hits, right there. And that is the thing. And then there's a new angle that someone had basically had, and this is, I think this is another angle, a closer in angle of that. Hey, look, it's January. Hang on, no, that's the wrong video. I'm going to play that one because that has to do with CNN. But we also, there was a video we had, bear with me just for a second, because we had, hang on just a second, let me see if I can do this. Maybe this is what is going on. No. Maybe this is it right here. Yeah, this is it right here, perhaps. Or is it? No. Bear with me, folks. Bear with me. We always get these videos, and I have them, and I think I have them. This is actually the Fire Chief John Donnelly from yesterday. This is an image. He basically confirms what we said tonight, that despite all the efforts, we are now at a point where they're switching this. He said this morning, from a rescue operation to a recovery. At this point, they think they've recovered about 27 bodies. That figure may fluctuate throughout the night. But there was a closer in video, and give me 1 second. I sure thought we had it. I want to download this because it's I've got it right there. Maybe it's this one right here that didn't download. We have these things in front of us, and then they are gone. Let's see here, right there. Give me 1 second. And if this ain't it, we'll play it for you tomorrow night because we've got a lot to cover tonight. But the bottom line is, no, that's the same video with the same angle. We had one where it was a lot closer, and you could see it. I've got a cousin that lives about 3 miles north of Ronald Reagan Airport. I asked him about it this morning. I said, did you hear it? And he said, no. He said the winds were blowing in from the north, and he said when those winds come off the Potomac like that, he said you can't really hear much because of the way the wind carries the sound. He said if the wind would have been coming from the south last night, he said we probably would have heard it. He was that close. But it is tragic, and but we've got other video. I do want to show you some of the political stuff, the fallout of this tonight, and it is despicable what the CNN folks are trying to do. This is Caitlin Collins. We're going to talk about Caitlin Collins in a minute. President Trump called her out today. But this is another CNN reporter last night basically blaming Trump for the crash. As the Democrats, you knew they would do this. And roll the tape. This is, I'll let you listen for yourself. This is CNN at its worst. But that's why they... reruns of SpongeBob on the Cartoon Network are getting more viewers than CNN these days because of crap just like this.
Look, it's January 29th. We are just 9 days out from a presidential transition, an administrative transition. The FAA administrator resigned at the end of the Biden administration, so there is no...
And I wonder why they resigned at the end of the Biden administration. They're blaming Trump for not having somebody in place. Trump has been basically stonewalled. They're stonewalling him on his nominees as it is in the Senate. We should have already had this cabinet in place. We should have already had the DEI director in place. We should have already had the FBI head in place. We should already have Kennedy confirmed. And we're going to talk about Patel and Gabbard and him a little bit here in a minute. But this is CNN and their take on this, that it's Trump's fault that Joe Biden spent 4 years worrying about racial diversity. And there's a memo out tonight, we'll show you about, talk about tomorrow night more, that literally the FAA back in 2013, they had made a decision to hire mentally impaired people, physically impaired people, emotionally impaired people to fill quotas in those air traffic towers. And folks, I'm going to say there was a report tonight of nearly 1,000 near misses took place last year over the skies of America, and in 23. Between 23 and 24, the last 2 years, we've had nearly 1,000 near miss collisions, and about I think 19 of those in the last year at Reagan International Airport. But CNN wants to blame Trump because Trump's only been in office, 10 days, and he didn't wave a magic wand and put an FAA director in there.
Permanent confirmed FAA administrator right now. This is going to be a time when there's going to be a lot of public communication, right, and a lot of investigation of what happened here. What do you anticipate this transition period is going to mean for what happens today and tomorrow and in the coming days as we find out what happened here?
Well, the transition period for aviation, not just in the D.C. area, but for all of the United States, was extremely important. We have so many aviation issues brewing right now, and there's been, criticism of our national and our national aviation policy, routes, access to aviation, the constant roller coaster of hiring and firing of pilots. Who has access? What are the routes? What are we going to do to get good service? And then throw in on top of that, things like, the drone traffic. And so I think it's very important. But first and foremost is these operations were entirely under the control of air traffic controllers.
So they're saying it is under control of the air traffic controllers. Well, when I asked the CNN idiots, who hired those air traffic controllers over the last 4 years? Was it Trump? No. Who was it? It was the one and only Pete Buttigieg. And as I said, I could be more than ugly tonight about that. I won't be. But that's CNN for you. Basically throwing shade on Trump and so forth. And then there was Caitlin Collins today. I've got it. Your screen's going to go black. Your screen's going to go black. And I want to put this story up because Trump pretty much fired back today at CNN and Caitlin Collins and the idiots there. And I'm going to put this article up and we're going to look at it if you don't mind. And I am going to find that video for tomorrow night, the close-up of the crash. And then we're going to move on to something else because we've got a lot to talk about tonight as it pertains to Mr. Kash Patel and Ms. Tulsi Gabbard. But Trump slams the air travel DEI policies, fires back at Caitlin Collins and says that's not a very smart question. That's an oxymoron. President Trump fired back at CNN's Caitlin Collins today for implying that he was getting ahead of the investigation into the devastating helicopter crash that took place over Ronald Reagan's National Airport, DCA, on Wednesday after he blamed diversity, equity, and inclusion policies. During a Thursday morning press conference, this was today, Trump began with a moment of silence for the 67 victims, 60 passengers, 4 crew members aboard the American Airlines flight, and 3 military service members aboard the Black Hawk that crashed. And this is what happened and ensued from Miss Caitlin Collins. That one right there. Trump, here he is right here with Caitlin, letting her know how he feels about CNN. Go figure.
We don't even yet know the names of the 67 people who were killed. And you are blaming Democrats and DEI policies and air traffic control and seemingly the member of the U.S. military who was flying that Black Hawk helicopter. Don't you think you're getting ahead of the investigation right now?
No, I don't think so at all. I don't think with the names of the people, you mean the names of the people that are on the plane, you think that's going to make a difference? They are a group of people that have lost their lives. If you want a list of the names, we can give you that. We'll be giving that very soon. We're in coordination with American Airlines. We're in coordination very strongly, obviously, with the military. But I think that's not a very smart question. I'm surprised coming from you.
Wow. That's how you do it. That's how you beat down CNN. That is not a very smart question, and that is a surprise coming from you. I would have said that's not a surprise coming from you, Caitlin, because your whole network asks dumb questions. Look, nobody as of this hour knows what happened last night over D.C. except this. A helicopter flew into a jet. There is no, under the weather conditions, under the circumstances that helicopter flew from, there is no good reason why that helicopter should have been flying that close to an airplane. I know that the common wisdom out there and thinking is that one of the things that the control tower asked the helicopter, he says, do you see the plane? There was another plane, when you saw that video a while ago, you saw that other plane taken off. And most of the people that are commentating on this, that's got a higher pay grade than I've got, believe that the plane saw the plane taken off, and that's who they thought that the control tower was talking about. All it would have taken that control tower individual to say is, hey, you got a plane in front of you. Go left, go right. It's what President Trump said. I mean, that's just common sense. And the question does have to be asked tonight, what kind of morons are manning the skies over America tonight? It makes you think before you get on an airplane, folks. It makes you think before you put your life in your hands. Look, these people left Wichita, Kansas, and there was one thing I learned tonight, that flight path from Wichita to Washington was one of the newest routes, actually. They had just started that route from Wichita to D.C. within the last maybe 6 months. So, terrible tragedy. But all it would have taken the air control tower to say to that helicopter pilot was, move to your right or left. You've got a plane in front of you. Asking a dumb blank question, do you see the plane? I mean, that's the kind of people that we got running things. And we got a lot more to say about this in the weeks and days to come, because Trump has basically told these workers in the federal government that have decided they don't want to come into their offices and work 1 day a week. You've got basically to February the 5th. You can either resign, you can take my payout, I'm going to give you 7 months pay and resign, or you can come back and get fired. It's up to you. And some of these imbeciles are trying to dig in and claim they're going to come back and create chaos. Well, you go right ahead. That's illegal, by the way. There are certain things under the Second Amendment, and the president has the power. He controls the federal bureaucracy. I hate to tell you, he's over Washington, and he controls federal workers, not you. You're not going to tell him what to do. He's going to tell you what to do, and if you don't like it, get out and go sell shoes at Shoeless. I understand McDonald's is hiring. Some of you can get out and cook hamburgers. In fact, they pay about a $15 an hour wage. That's pretty good. Better that than starve. Just a thought. But no, this is about to get real. And President Trump is not taking any prisoners right now. He's cleaning this mess out. This stuff has got to stop. And I pray to God that there will be changes made. And Sean Duffy did an excellent job. We were on this morning. Sean Duffy did an excellent job this morning dealing with the fallout. It was his first press conference. And I think he handled it extremely well. He's got a lot on his hands, a lot on his plate. He's just been in the office 48 hours thanks to the delay of the Dems getting him installed. And folks, I'm telling you, this is why this country teetered. Can you imagine tonight? Let's just think about this. Can you imagine what we would be talking about tonight if Kamala Harris was in charge of the government tonight and this happened? If Pete Buttigieg was still the Department of Transportation Secretary, what he would be doing tonight if he was still in charge of this? I don't have to tell you that. You know exactly what would be happening. So I just pray that the lessons have been learned. It's not going to give any comfort to these families of their lost loved ones. And our hearts break over the loss of life. This painful lesson cannot go without it being learned that we do not let this happen again. I don't care if Trump goes in there tomorrow. Look, I would be up, and we'll maybe ask this question in one of our polls. Would you agree with maybe just a shutdown of the airlines for a day or two to get people in place that are qualified? It's not going to be easy, because you do have commercial airlines flying the country, and you're going to have to pray to God that these people in those towers have got the competence to do their job, because it is a probably one of the most stressful jobs you got, because you're dealing with airplanes. And there's a lot of stories that we're following, some things that we've heard that, again, we're trying to confirm as to the mindset of that tower last night. And I think that when all is said and done, we're going to find out this could have been avoided. This could have been avoided, and lives were lost thanks to DEI policy and thanks to the incompetence of the previous administration. You can't lay this on Trump's door. Nobody can lay this on Trump's door. Even these godless Dems. They're trying, but this is not on Trump. This is strictly on Pete Buttigieg and strictly on Joe Biden and their policies and Kamala Harris for the last 4 years. And I would say it goes back longer than that, because we've been basically putting people in office. And I did read one report that Obama stopped the hiring. He got sued for this. It was over 1,000 people that were denied their application to work for the FAA. You know why they were denied? Because they had the same color skin Chris McDonald has. They were white. Not because they wasn't qualified. No, because they were white. And again, we had to fix racial quotas. So I say it's all on Joe. I'm going to put it all on the left tonight, because this is what you get when you have a liberal-run country. And you put DEI and you put diversity and equity, as they call it, and all these other names, for God's sake, that they call it, ahead of brains. And people are dead. People are dead because of it. Very sad tonight. We'll get your thoughts on this a little bit later. But Very tragic situation. Very tragic situation. Wesley, your point is well taken. Reagan fired many air traffic controllers and hired new ones after they went on strike. That is so true. That is so true. And, you know, look, if I was Trump, I would, I mean, it's what he needs to do. You got to make sure you have somebody to put in their place quickly. Because you can go in there and fire everybody. You can't just fire everybody and not have the towers manned. But I'm not so sure that that doesn't need to happen now. Honestly, your point is so, I remember that. My uncle worked with the Postal Service. And my uncle, he was a Republican, but he was not a big fan of Reagan doing that. Because the postal people were getting ready to go on strike. And my late uncle, he was a postal worker. And he was scared that if they went on strike, that Reagan was going to do the same thing to them. But I tell you what happened. When Reagan fired those air traffic controllers, my uncle didn't go on strike. They respected Reagan. And they knew Reagan meant what he said. And they saw what he did. And they said, hey, we're dealing with somebody that's keeping his word. And he's the boss. You don't like the boss? Go find something else to do. Go work at Payless. Go work at McDonald's or Wendy's. I'm sure they're hiring. But I'm with you, Wes. That's a good point. And I think that is possibly what's going to need to happen. We'll just see. But I remember that. I remember that day well. It was 1981. I was a sophomore in high school. I stayed with him. It was a summer. And I remember my uncle freaking out about it. He was Reagan. I mean, he liked Reagan, but he didn't like what Reagan did in that situation. Good point, my friend. Very well said. Geraldine, you says, have you heard if they've slowed down air traffic, especially because of low staffing issues? Geraldine, they've not done nothing. No, they've not slowed nothing down. The low staffing issues is an issue, but they've not slowed nothing down. To my knowledge, they've not. They've reopened Reagan Airport. They need to. I mean, something needs to be sort of looked at. I'm just saying this to the public. I'm saying this to my audience tonight. Do you trust getting on an airplane tonight? Would you want to get on an airplane and not just flying to D.C.? Would you want to fly anywhere at this point? And I think it's a legitimate question, folks. And again, I'm not trying to make light of these deaths. I'm sickened tonight, folks. I think about these kids, these ice skaters, you know, and they were so close to the landing. They, you know, I'm sure they were texting family last night. They were probably making calls on their, because you can put airplane mode and make calls on the phone if you need to. And I have no doubt that these kids were texting and saying, hey, Mom, I'm about to land. We're about to land. We're okay. And seconds after they say that, this helicopter slams into that plane. And there are no words for that. There's no comparison to feel that, how you must feel if you're a parent tonight, or you're a friend or brother, sister, mother, father, spouse, husband, wife, whatever, and your loved one was on that plane last night. There ain't no words for that. And they do need answers. And there needs to be something learned from this, that it does not ever happen again, at least not for the reason that it happened last night. And we're going to be following this in the next few days for sure. And Linda, you're right. It's a high-stress, ultra-demanding job. It takes a lot of training. It takes a lot of schooling. And it takes mentally sound people. It takes mentally sound people. I want to say it again. It takes mentally sound people that know what they're doing. And if you can't do it, go do something else. But you're taking lives into your hands doing it. And again, folks, we've just been nothing but fortunate that we've not had more, because there's been 1,000 near misses. All right, now, we got started around 9:30 tonight. We normally start at 9, but I was trying to get as much info on this crash as I could to update you on it tonight. We'll follow this tomorrow night. We'll be back. We've got some more video coming. The other big story today is the confirmation hearings of Kash Patel, Tulsi Gabbard, and RFK was back on the Hill today in round 2. And things got a little wild today. Let's just say that RFK didn't leave anything left to be desired with Bernie Sanders. Bernie, I think, is not going to be asking RFK anymore about Big Pharma. Roll the tape. This is RFK calling the Dem corruption now for what it is. I love what look, folks, you don't have to agree with RFK. I know there's a lot of people out there that don't like RFK. I'm going to get your opinion on all this at the end. I don't agree with his abortion issue. I don't agree with his stance. I have faith in President Trump. There's a reason why he picked him for this health agency. And not every nominee that Trump puts out there is going to be perfect. We're going to talk about some issues with Kash Patel tonight and Tulsi. But RFK said what we've all wanted to say to this corrupt Congress. Roll the tape.
I'm going to make America healthier than other countries in the world right now.
Will you guarantee do what every other major country does? It's a simple question.
And by the way, Bernie, the problem of corruption is not just in the federal agencies, it's in Congress too. Almost all the members of this panel are accepting, including yourself, are accepting millions of dollars from the pharmaceutical industry.
Oh, no,
protecting their interests.
Oh, I thought that would... No. I ran for president like you. I got millions and millions.
Did you see Bernie? No. Roll that back. This is what you call a congressional beatdown by RFK. Go Robert F.
Simple question.
And by the way, Bernie, the problem of corruption is not just in the federal agencies.
The problem of corruption is not just in the federal agencies, is it? No, it's not. It's on that panel. Did you see his wife in the background? She is called Unmitigated Hell from Hollywood. That's Cheryl Hines, by the way. That's an actress. And they blackballed her because her husband is working for Trump. And she stood with her husband, and I'm proud of her. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes and behind closed doors at the Kennedy house, but she has stood with him. She may not agree with a thing, and she may be gritting her teeth that she don't like Donald Trump, I'm sure, if she's out in that Hollywood land. But as a wife, you cannot help but respect her for standing by her husband. And I respect that in her. But she has to listen. That's what I hate about these hearings when these family members come in, because they got to listen to the crap coming from these corrupt demagogue politicians like Bernie Sanders and all this bunch that should be in jail, to be frank with you, for the corruption that they've put on the American people and this crap they've put on us. I'm glad RFK had the balls to say this to him today. Roll the tape. Keep rolling.
It's in Congress, too. Almost all the members of this panel are accepting, including yourself, are accepting millions of dollars from the pharmaceutical industry.
Oh,
protecting their interests.
Oh, I thought that would... No. I ran for president like you. I got millions and millions of contributions. They did not come from the executives, not one nickel of PAC money from the pharmaceutical industry. They came from workers.
2020.
So, this is the hypocrisy of Bernie Sanders. Oh, they didn't come from the executives. They came from the PAC members. It's still Big Pharma, Bernie. Do we have to draw that in crown for you? I guess we do. This is a politician for you. This is typical hypocrisy. Bernie identifies himself as an independent, but he's a Dem. This is the most radical. I mean, if you're talking about liberalism, having a mental disorder, and you want to put a face with that, you're looking at it right there. But did you see how he scattered that? Did you see how he twisted that? And I took all that money, but it wasn't from the executives. Well, it still came from the same pot, Bernie. Do you think we're stupid? Don't answer that question, because I know that's what you do. DC Drano said RFK calls him out for taking the single highest amount of Big Pharma campaign contribution in the entire Senate. And I'm glad for it. Keep rolling the tape. About 26 seconds.
Hey, in 2020, you were the single largest
because I had
receiver of pharmaceutical money
from workers all over this country. Workers.
You were the single...
Not a nickel from corporate tax.
You were the single largest acceptor of pharmaceutical dollars.
No, from workers in
1.5 million.
Yeah, out of 200 million. All right, but you have not answered. Last question.
Yeah, that's your last question, Bernie. That's what you call a beatdown, folks. That's what you call a beatdown. I applaud RFK. What he said was true. Bernie was the single most... See his face, how red it gets? That's these Dems for you. That's these Dems for you. That's these Dems for you. When they get their little hand caught in the cookie jar. Way to go, RFK. I'm with him. I'm with him. And I think you are too. We're going to take your questions and comments here and so forth. Let me play you Kash Patel today was put on the hot seat too. Here's another one. Before we go to that one, this is Robert F.K. with another lovely losing Democrat trying to trap him in something. She's trying to guilt him about supporting Trump. Roll the tape.
You keep citing the Trump administration and you're just going to follow what they say. Is that what you're doing? You're just a rubber stamp for them in this position? So anybody, so it doesn't matter that you're before us. It could be anybody coming before us as long as they're a rubber stamp for this administration and disregarding your beliefs and what you think. I guess my question to you is, if it really is fundamental to what you believe, how do you live with that? How do you address those issues as you're moving forward, knowing that it's going to harm Americans? Yeah.
You want me to answer the question?
No, I'm asking you.
Okay. President Trump has asked me to end the chronic disease epidemic and make America healthy again. And
so is that the only reason why you're at HHS? Is that the only reason why then you're at the HHS, to address that one issue?
President Trump has asked me because I'm in a unique position to end that. And that is what I'm doing. And if we don't solve that problem, Senator, all of the other disputes we have about who's paying, and whether it's insurance companies, whether it's providers, whether it's HMOs, whether it's patients or families, all of those are moving deck chairs around on the Titanic. Our ship is sinking. Our 60% increase in Medicaid over the past 4 years is the biggest budget line now, and it's growing faster than any other. And no other nation in the world has what we have here. No other nation has a chronic disease. We have the highest chronic disease burden of any country in the world. We had, during COVID, we had 16% of the COVID deaths in a country. We only have 4.2% of the world's population. We had a higher death count than any country in the world. And when CDC was asked why, they said it's because Americans are the sickest people on earth.
And we are.
The average person who died from COVID, American, had 3.8 chronic diseases. This is an existential threat economically, to our military, to our health, to our sense of well-being. And it is a priority for President Trump. And that's why he asked me to run the agency. And if I'm privileged to be confirmed, that's exactly what I'll do.
And I believe he is the right man for the job. And again, folks, there are issues with RFK Jr. I do not agree. I'm going to make it clear, because when you say, if you say, well, you support RFK for health secretary, well, Chris, that means you must support abortion because RFK believes in abortion. That does not mean I support abortion. You know my stance on abortion. I believe, and this is just an opinion, folks, and you could take it as whatever you want to take it. I think one of the beautiful things what Trump is doing, he's trying to get a bipartisan spirit in D.C., something we've not had in D.C. in 100 years, 50 years. And maybe if he gets these Democrats to come in and help him, even though he was even told RFK, he said, don't be trying to get me to change my stance on abortion. Don't get me trying to change my stance on certain other things. And RFK has expressed his differences with Trump, but Trump still believes in him for health secretary. And look, I tend to lean toward President Trump's discretion on this. He's not perfect. There's not going to be a perfect health secretary. I've got you a poll question, one of many tonight. Do you support RFK for this position? And I'm just curious what our audience is. What he told the girl, though, this losing Democrat, the one that was trying to corner him, we are a sick nation, folks. And a lot of it has been because of the food we've been eating, the COVID thing, the vaccines, the things that are going on out there. He's basically, they've pinned him in a corner. I know Dr. Stephen Smith has been on our show numerous times. We're going to get him back on. I'd like to get his take about this because, Dr. Smith is probably one of the best voices we've ever had on this show about the vaccines. And you know how he feels. He don't believe we should have any vaccines because of the dangerous things that are in them. Well, RFK is basically just sounding that alarm. He's been sounding that alarm for years. And these Democrats, they cannot stand somebody speaking truth to that kind of situation. Because, see, I believe they were behind this COVID mess. I do. They weaponized that virus to beat Trump in 2020. And now it's blown up in their face. Because I don't think Trump could be doing the things he's doing tonight 4 years ago. But it was God's perfect timing for him to do it now. Without the help of false prophets and without the help of all this craziness out there on the internet. God has his own plan. Man has their plan, and man has their own say. God has his say. So I'm going to leave it with President Trump. I believe that Robert F. Kennedy will do a good job. And I think that, in all fairness, I don't have to agree with him. I don't agree with all of these cabinet members on everything they believe and say anyway. But most of them, I would say 99% of them, I think, are square on what we need for the country right now. And we need a change. We need a change of atmosphere in D.C. I look at Tulsi Gabbard in the same way. Not a big fan of Tulsi. But if we can bring her in and she do a good job, then we basically break free of this partisanship to a degree. It will be good for the country. It may not be good for our political notebooks and our political checklist and, this and that and the other. But the country needs to heal this partisan divide. And I believe RFK has a chance. I didn't say he's going to do it. He has a chance, if he does a good job, to do just that. To show the country that two people with diametrically opposite views politically can get along and do something good for the country. How wonderfully novel is that tonight? Church could learn a few lessons about that too, which I won't get into right now. All righty. He wasn't the only one on the hot seat today. I just love the way he beat Bernie down like a dog. Beat him down like a dog. Here is Kash Patel. This was the other one. And I got a few things to say about Kash tonight. Here he is. I'm not sure who he was talking to here, but he held his own too today. They were trying to blow him out of the water. He gave it right back to him. That's why I love Kash Patel. Roll the tape.
What were you doing?
This is Ted Cruz
on that day.
Let me stop this video. This right here actually is a good video. This is when Ted Cruz, the senator from Texas, and we got a breaking news story I'll give to you in a minute. But Kash Patel is about to be asked by Ted Cruz about J6 because they brought J6 up quite a bit. And I'll play you one of the videos where somebody asked him, well, do you think the country's safer tonight because Trump pardoned the J6ers? And his response was golden. But Ted Cruz led him down a path that I think that this is why the Democrats are scared of Kash Patel. Because they're scared of him, folks. Roll tape.
What were you doing on that day?
On that day specifically, responding to preparing to mobilize and deploy the National Guard once we got the lawful request from the local governing authority, which was the mayor of D.C. and the Speaker of the House.
Now, how many days in advance were you working to prepare the Department of Defense to help secure the Capitol on January 6th?
Days in advance, Senator. We were in the Oval Office on an unrelated national security matter with the President of the United States, the Secretary of Defense, the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and myself. And the President authorized up to 20,000 plus National Guardsmen and women to secure any security measures necessary related to the Capitol. So we were moving to the fullest extent of the law before the requisite request came from a local governing authority days ahead of time.
And while you were Chief of Staff at DOD, how many times did DOD approach Capitol Police and ask if they needed National Guard assistance?
I believe those letters are well documented, numerous instances, and numerous of those instances, those requests were shut down.
Those requests. Let me just stop it right there because there's more to this. Because Ted Cruz is going to ask the $1 million question that the media refused to ask. The J6 committee refused to ask. They hid evidence of this. He just said they shut it down. They shut that request down. Patel and all of them was warning him that you're going to have some people in J6 that don't think this election was done right. And it's good that we've got the National Guard there just to make sure nothing bad happens. They shut it down. But this goes beyond the Sergeant at Arms. Roll the tape. Say it, Ted.
Sergeant at Arms said assistance was unnecessary.
That's correct, Senator.
Who did the Sergeant at Arms report to?
The Speaker of the House.
That would have been Nancy Pelosi at the time. Is that correct?
Yes, Senator.
And would that also be Chuck Schumer,
Chuck
the Senate
Schumer
Majority
too?
Leader?
The Sergeant at Arms, yes, Senator, reports up there.
Did Mayor Bowser, the Democrat elected mayor in D.C., either request or allow National Guard assistance?
She put in writing on the days leading up to January 6th a declination for National Guard additional support. And that letter is available publicly to the world.
So, and just to speak English for folks at home, a declination meant she said no, don't send National Guard. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
She said, don't
Let me ask you
send
a simple
National
question,
Guard.
because from the questioning from my Democrat colleagues, they might think otherwise. Do you condemn violence against law enforcement?
All of it.
All of it. They were trying to corner him into the fact that because Trump pardoned the J6ers and Patel went along with that Patel was advocating violence. And folks, let me tell you something. I totally believe tonight that the FBI was infiltrated into that crowd and they were instigating a lot of this. And I do not condone any violence. I know you've heard my statement on J6. There were a lot of knuckleheads that did a lot of stupid stuff. And, you know, they brought out tonight, I think it was Charlie Kirk or somebody, that Patel did not agree with Trump pardoning, giving a blanket pardon to everybody, including those that had committed violence against police officers. And there was some of that. There were people that busted rocks out of the Capitol that day. They went and sat in Nancy Pelosi's chair, taking selfies like a bunch of idiots. And that behavior, folks, should not have ever happened. We are civilized on the right. We should know better. We're not kindergartners. We don't have to be told, don't go bust windows out of buildings. And I don't care if we were set up, and I've heard this excuse. People have told me, well, we were set up, and they set us up. Well, if they set us up, why were we not smart enough not to bite the bait? Why? You know, if we're so smart on our side, why didn't we understand that we were set up? So I don't have any disagreement with what Kash Patel said in that. Look, I'm glad President Trump did what he did with J6, but I think this is one of the reasons that the Dems are scared as you know what of Kash Patel, because that is going to come out. They're going to get to the bottom, and the truth is going to be released. And speaking of the truth, this is my congressman, my senator from Tennessee, Marsha Blackburn, tonight. She had something to say to Kash about Jeffrey Epstein. It gets gooder. It gets gooder today with the Kash Patel.
Questions, and it has led me to one thing. Why are the Democrats so afraid of you?
Why are the Democrats so afraid of Kash Patel? Why are they afraid of RFK? Why are they afraid of Tulsi Gabbard? Asking for a friend. Roll the tape.
I don't know, Senator. You'd have to ask them.
Well, I tell you what I think, and listening to their questions and your responses, which we appreciate, they know that you're going to go in and you're going to clean up that political cabal that has been over there for years. You are going to reposition the FBI to its core mission. You stated that earlier in this hearing, and there will be no more political persecutions and no more two tiers of justice, and they have liked having two tiers of justice. They have enjoyed it, and it has helped them. They think in their political mission, they've enjoyed targeting Catholics. They've enjoyed targeting parents. But the American people have said they want no more of that. and our colleagues know you're going to clean it up. I want to talk to you about the Epstein
Listen
case.
closely.
I have worked on this for years.
Listen closely.
Trying to get those records of who flew on Epstein's plane and who helped him build this international.
That question has been hid under the rug for 6 years now. Epstein, I was coming home from D.C. the night that Epstein didn't hang himself. I'm going to say that again. I was actually coming home from D.C. the night that Epstein did not hang himself. And we have not gotten a straight answer to this day about that empire. Ghislaine Maxwell was in Tallahassee, Florida. I grew up in Tallahassee, just north of there. And she ain't said a peep. There ain't been a peep out of her. I'm actually surprised Biden didn't pardon her before he left. He pardoned everybody else. I'm glad Marcia brought this up today. If you don't think this made the Democrats start squirming, there ain't nothing would make them squirm. Roll the tape. Got 40 seconds. Roll the tape.
Human trafficking, sex trafficking ring. Now, earlier I urged then Chairman Durbin to subpoena those records, and I ended up being blocked by Senator Durbin and Christopher Wray. They stonewalled on this, and I know that breaking up these trafficking rings is important to President Trump. So will you work with me on this issue so we know who worked with Jeffrey Epstein in building these sex trafficking rings?
Absolutely, Senator. Child sex trafficking has no place in the United States of America, and I will do everything, if confirmed as FBI director, to make sure the American public knows the full weight of what happened in the past and how we are going.
I just love that man, and I know a lot of people don't. And for some stupid reasons, there's people out there claiming he's the devil and everything else. Some of the most stupid and asinine stupidity in the entire world as to why people don't like him. And a lot of it's coming from religious voices that don't have a brain, and I'll leave it at that. But I believe Kash Patel, though not perfect, as none of these cabinet members are, I think I'll agree with what he just said, that he's going to do just that. And let's just ask a question tonight. I'm about to get to your comments. It's 10:30. We're going to go another half hour here. Listen, is that not what we've been crying for years? We just want transparency. We're tired of being lied to by our institutions. We're tired of being lied to by the FBI. We're tired of being lied to by the CIA. We're tired of being lied to by the national security agencies. We're tired of being lied to by the White House. We're tired of being lied to by Congress. And I think these people, if there's a common theme in all three of Gabbard, Kennedy, and him, and I would throw Ratcliffe in there, I would throw Waltz in there, I would throw even Sean Duffy in there. Sean Duffy was as transparent this morning as he could be. I mean, he said, look, we're getting to the bottom of this. We'll let you know when we get to the bottom of it. There's none of this where, we just double speak. Folks, that's all we want as citizens. We want our government just to tell us the freaking truth. How hard is that? What big deal is that? I tell you why they don't want to tell you the truth. Because they're corrupt. And I think this is why they are scared to death of Kash Patel, including Dick Durbin, who Marcia called him out. Now, I've got something to say about this video. I'm going to play it, and then I got some comments about it. Because Dick Durbin's going to bring up somebody that we're going to explain. This is how Kash Patel answered this. There was information that's arose today, and it's not as the response has not been as great on X as I thought it would be, but the Dems sure used it, tried to today, and that's one Stu Peters, who I'm no fan of. I want you to listen to what Kash Patel had to say, because they asked him, they called him on the carpet about this, as they should have, because Stu Peters has got a problem with being a little anti-Semitic. Let me change that. Not little. He is a full-blown anti-Semite. And a complete nutcase. And all you idiots that paid probably $500 for that stupid anti-snake venom kit, I hope you're enjoying that. God help us. Roll the tape.
Stu Peters, does that name ring a bell?
Sorry for the volume.
I'm sorry, what?
Are you familiar with Mr. Stu Peters?
Not off the top of my head.
He made 8 separate appearances on his podcast. He promoted outrageous conspiracy theories and worked with a prominent neo-Nazi. There are more. Ted Nugent, it goes on, list goes on. I'm just asking, when it comes to your association with individuals, why are so many of them in this category?
My association, as you loosely define it, is by appearing in media over 1,000 times to take on people who are putting on conspiratorial theories and to devour them of their false impressions and to talk to them about the truth. That is something that I will always continue to fight for, Senator.
Now, I want to make it clear. I don't like Stu Peters. I think Stu Peters is an absolute evil individual. He has got one of the most anti-Semitic podcasts in America. There are a lot of spiritual voices that do not condemn him. I totally condemn him. And I say to him tonight, you need to get saved, Stu. You really do. He needs to meet Jesus. Patel did not do himself any favors by going on that podcast 3 years ago. I do not know why Kash Patel chose to do that. I will take his answer at face value, that he went on there with the express purpose to try to discuss issues with Stu. Now, I did not see the videos. I don't plan to. I don't want to go back. And there were evidently 8 appearances over a course of period of time. And a lot of that was probably around 2020, 21. It was back in the time of COVID and that kind of thing. And that was when the snake venom crap was going out, that they were putting snake venom in our water. And gullible Christians and people that had the discernment of a goat were going out buying water machines thinking that they were going to get the snake venom out of their water. And that's the same people that were basically taking herbs so the serpent seed wouldn't get in their system and all this other crazy spiritual nonsense. And the Q movement has a lot to be thanked for that tonight. And I will say this about Patel, and I'm just calling spade a spade, folks. So we talk straight on this program. I was not aware that Patel had been so cozy to Stu Peters until tonight. He needs to explain that. I think he handled the Durbin question. The Durbin question was a gotcha question. The Durbin question was not, Durbin don't care about Stu Peters. Durbin could care less about Stu Peters. Durbin is as anti-Semitic as Stu is. His policies are just as anti-Israel as Stu. So it's a bunch of hypocrites trying to call another hypocrite out. But when it comes to Patel, I think, this is my opinion tonight, he needs to renounce those appearances. He needs to renounce the anti-Semitism of Stu Peters. He needs to make it clear that we support Israel as a nation, that I agree with President Trump's support of Israel. I totally am repugnated by Stu Peters' anti-Semitic views. I disavow all that he said. I disavow his stance on the Jews controlling the world. And I think that if Patel will do that, I think most of us out here, we can accept that, and we will move on, and we'll give him a fair shot at that hearing. I'm going to take him at face value that the reason he went on that was to have a discussion of the issues, to get Stu to come across along his side. I guess I could handle that a little bit better if this was like 1 or 2 appearances. When you go on there 8, Stu must be very hard-headed for you to have to go on there 8 times to get him to see your point of view. I'm the kind of person, if I get somebody on this network and I don't feel good about them, and they say things that, and I'm not going to ever embarrass a guest while I've got them on the show. I just bite my tongue, and I've had to bite my tongue at times with people. I've just kept my mouth shut till the end of the show. But when that camera came off, I would be nice, but I vowed they would never see the light of day on this network again. And they haven't. I believe Patel, this is going to be a pitfall if he does not address it properly. Now, that's my opinion, and I'm going to get yours later in just a few minutes. If there's anything that is going to be a problem for him, I believe this will be. Look, I don't quite understand all the religious backlash. People were getting freaked out about his wizardry books, and these hypocrites out there, they'll sit there and complain about the wizardry and then push Q at the same time. So you can't have it both ways. You're pushing occultism and you're pushing something that is absolutely false. And then you're worried about a book that Patel wrote. You know, you can't have it both ways. Q has been the most demonic thing that's hit the church probably in 50 years. But you had Christian leaders pushing it. Voices pushing it. Patel, we're not hiring him to be our pastor. We're hiring him to be head of the FBI. I'm not going to go get his book. I want him to clean that FBI out. I want him to get these demonic demagogues out. I want him to fight crime and go after the real criminals and stop investigating people that are innocent and stop putting grandmothers in jail for praying in front of abortion clinics. There's time, the time has come for a house cleaning. And if Kash Patel can do it, I don't really care what Kash Patel does with his personal time. He's not my pastor. I don't look to him for my spiritual direction. But this anti-Semitic Stu Peters does not need to go without an explanation. And I think Kash Patel owes it to the American public, this is my opinion, that he renounce all of that. And that's just Chris's opinion. We'll get yours in a minute. One final thing, and then we got to wrap this up. We're running out of time. We'll pick some of this more up tomorrow. Tulsi Gabbard was on the hot seat today. Here's what she had to say. This is why they're scared of her. This is why they're scared of Tulsi Gabbard. Roll the tape.
Senator, as someone who enlisted in the military specifically because of Al-Qaeda's terrorist attack on 9/11 and committing myself and my life to doing what I could to defeat these terrorists, it was shocking and a betrayal to me and every person who was killed on 9/11, their families and my brothers and sisters in uniform. When as a member of Congress, I learned about President Obama's dual programs that he had begun really to overthrow the regime of Syria, and being willing to, through the CIA's Timber Sycamore program that has now been made public, of working with and arming and equipping Al-Qaeda in an effort to overthrow that regime, starting yet another regime change war in the Middle East. DOD train and equip program, again, begun under President Obama, is widely been known, looked at, and studied, that ultimately resulted in over $500 million being used to train who they called moderate rebels, but were actually fighters working with and aligned with Al-Qaeda's affiliate on the ground in Syria, all to move forward with their regime change and not acknowledging what was obvious at the time and what has unfortunately borne true, which was that a regime change war in Syria, much like the regime change wars in Iraq, the toppling of Gaddafi and Mubarak, while these are all dictators, would likely result in the rise of Islamist extremists like Al-Qaeda taking power. I shed no tears for the fall of the Assad regime, but today we have an Islamist extremist who is now in charge of Syria, as I said, who danced on the streets to celebrate the 9/11 attack, who ruled over Idlib with an Islamist extremist governance, and who has already begun to persecute and kill and arrest religious minorities like Christians in Syria.
I understand.
Why that should be acceptable to anyone is beyond me.
It shouldn't
is
be.
certainly
and
not
I understand,
in our interests.
I'm sorry.
And that's Tulsi Gabbard. And she is going to be probably of the three, I think, the hardest to get through, because there is a lot of senators that are opposed to her, more than the three that we can afford to lose. Josh Hawley was on Hannity tonight, and he said that of the three, he is most concerned about her nomination. If you know James R., my dear buddy, James R. is James R. And that's why I love James R. James R. is James R. He lived in Hawaii when Tulsi was their representative and senator. He's never been a fan of Tulsi. Still not. Don't trust her past this camera. And I tend to agree with James's assessment. I have to, again, lean toward President Trump's choice, and there's a reason why he's got her in this position. And I'm going to have to just, again, my personal opinion is my personal opinion. If President Trump wants her, this is his call, and I think it's what Charlie Kirk said tonight, and it was so true. Josh Hawley said it. He said that the Republican senators need to realize that President Trump got such a mandate in November. This is the cabinet he wants. This is not your cabinet. This is his cabinet. And these senators, I think, are playing with fire if they don't give him what he wants. And look, there's nothing majorly bad about Tulsi Gabbard. They questioned her today about Snowden. They questioned her about being a puppet of Putin, a puppet of Trump, a puppet of this regime, a puppet of that regime, and a puppet of Assad. And I think she handled herself as well as anybody could. We'll deal with this more tomorrow night because we're running out of time tonight. But they're just as scared of her as they are all the rest of them, because she's going to go in there and disrupt the Department of National Intelligence. And I'm telling you, folks, we need disruptors right now. There needs to be a freaking house cleaning from top to bottom. And if Tulsi Gabbard's the one to do it, I'm all for it. Again, I'm not looking to Tulsi for my spiritual advice. I'm not looking to Tulsi to be my pastor. I'm not looking for Tulsi to be a hardcore right-wing conservative, because that's not who she is. She served her country in Iraq. I respect that. I do not agree with a lot of her political views. But again, if that's who President Trump believes is the best person to get in there, and look, I have a rule of thumb about this kind of stuff. If the Democrats hate her, then that should tell us right there why we should love her. If the Democrats are scared of them, that should tell us that they're probably the right person. If the rhinos are scared of them, Trump's got the right people. If the rhinos are threatening to vote against him, that's our gal. That's our guy. So I'm just an old common sense Southerner. If they're scared of her and they don't want Tulsi on the left, vote her in tomorrow. So we'll let that go. Now, a couple of quick things. I want to play one more video of Kash today. This is Amy Klobuchar. You talking about the meltdown. These Dems they've been having a rough week. They've had a rough week. Roll the tape.
Could he just answer the question if he said that the FBI headquarters, where they investigate cybercrime and terrorism, should be shut down and open as a deep state, as a museum? Did he say that the headquarters should be shut down?
Mr. Chair,
I deserve an answer to that question. He is asking to be head of the FBI, and he said that their headquarters should be shut down.
Mr. Chair, parliamentary inquiry.
You got anything you want to say, Mr. Patel, before I go on to Senator Lee?
Simply this. If the best attacks on me are going to be false accusations and grotesque mischaracterizations, the only thing this body is doing is defeating the credibility of the men and women at the FBI. I stood with them here in this country. In every theater of war we have, I was on the ground in service of this nation. And any accusations leveled against me that I would somehow put political bias before the Constitution are grotesquely unfair. And I will have you reminded that I have been endorsed by over 300,000 law enforcement officers to become the next director of the FBI. Let's ask them.
Mr. Chairman, I am quoting his own words from September of 2024. It is his own words. It is not some conspiracy. It is what Mr. Patel actually said himself. Facts matter.
Facts matter. About to cry.
You had 3 minutes in the next round to say what you just said.
Okay, I'll say them again.
Okay.
Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
That's what I would have said to her if I'd have been Kash Patel. Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
That's just stupid dumb-foolery.
That's what I would have said to her as well. See, it would not be good for McDonald to be answering questions and being part of the Trump administration, because all of you would disown me if I was. Because I would at least make it fun. I'd go down in a flame. I wouldn't get nominated because I'd go down in a flame, but I'd at least make it fun. All righty. That's all I got time for tonight. I wish I had more time. I want to take your questions. We didn't get everything to everything. Tomorrow night's Friday. We'll be a little lighter. this the one? Is this the one?
Elementary, my dear Watson.
There we go. It's elementary, my dear Watson. It's elementary, my dear Watson. All righty. You got 15 minutes. You got 15 minutes. Say what you got to say. Say what you got to say. Geraldine, have you heard if there have been any Republican holdouts on these nominees? I have on Gabbard. I have on Gabbard. Yes, I have. By the way, I got to read you a breaking news story before you get to your questions. This just came in at 6:02 tonight. This is from Nick Sorter, and we'll have this more on this tomorrow night. 24 hours before an American Airlines flight collided with a Black Hawk at Reagan National Airport, another American flight had to abort landing last night, or the night before, due to a helicopter crossing its flight path at the same airport. AA 4514 can be seen on radar having to go around to make a second attempt and is currently under investigation. I'm going to let you, I don't know if you can see that. You can see it good right there. Let me get it out of the reflection. You see that? That is what it had to do to avoid hitting that helicopter. And that is Nick Sorter's, I'm going to follow Nick on X. We're going to follow that story for tomorrow night. Geraldine, to your question. Yes, Gabby's in trouble. Gabby's in trouble. She's got about 6 senators on the Republican side that said they're not going to vote for her. Now, I felt like she did pretty good today in the hearing. That's just my opinion. I didn't say she's knocked it out of the park, but if I was a senator and I was on the fence, I would have probably said, you know, I think we're in good hands here. Magdalene Rose was with us Monday night, and Magdalene said a lot of her problems has been she's not been prepared in some of the discussions behind closed doors. That's been Gabby's fault, Gabbard's fault. I mean, she's not had her ducks in a row and T's crossed and I's dotted. And when you're in this kind of environment in D.C., you cannot go up there half baked. You got to be prepared and ready to answer the hard questions and not be saying, "Hey, I'll get back to you on that." You ain't got time to get back to them on that, because you got a few days max to make your case to be part of this cabinet. I go back to what I said a while ago. It really should not be this way. Our Constitution is set up that the legislative branch is a check and balance to the executive branch, and this is one way that they check and balance the executive branch. They get to approve or disapprove the cabinet heads. But I believe that it has been taken to a level that politics has entered in, and it's just not fair, because Joe Biden had his people in place 2 weeks after he was in office in 2020. And these same Republicans that are stonewalling Trump's people voted for a transvestite basically to run the Health and Human Services Department. That's what's so hypocritical to me about Lisa Murkowski, that she voted for Levine that can't even determine what sex organ he's got. She was okay with that. Susan Collins was okay with that. But they wasn't okay with Pete Hegseth. It's not fair to President Trump. Trump needs to have the cabinet that he wants. If these are the people that he feels like are qualified, he should get it. And this is the way I look at Trump. Trump is the kind of leader that if they don't do their job, he will replace them. That I have confidence in. And you have to have faith that if they don't do their job, they're gone. Because this administration, this second go around ain't like the first one. This second go around ain't going to be like the first one. And that's just the way I feel about it. Jennifer, I just mentioned the breaking news. We had almost another crash 24 hours before last night. Carol Smith, if Patel or anyone doesn't do the job, I'm sure Trump will fire them, give them a chance. And, you know, Carol, I just said that. You're absolutely right, buddy. You're absolutely right. That's what I just said. By the way, 79% of you voted, 99% say yes to RFK. I'm going to put one other poll up tonight before we leave. And we're going to take, while I'm doing this, should Kash Patel, we'll do Gabby tomorrow night, be confirmed as FBI head. And I'll let you chime in on that one. Trump should have his people. Let me go over to Facebook. Vicky, I pray they will all be confirmed. Pat and Deb Dolan says, do you have any idea who might Trump have in thoughts in case Kash can't make it through? No, I don't. No, I don't right now. I'm sure he does. Look, he had Pam Bondi in the bullpen if Matt Gaetz didn't pass the test, and Matt didn't, and Pam was put up there immediately. I'm sure he's got somebody, but I really don't know who that would be right now. I think he's put his chips in the Kash Patel table. I do. I think he's pushed his chips to the middle of the table with Kash. I do. There's nothing inherently bad that they can say that Kash Patel has done. Now, this Stu Peters thing, it stinks. I mean, I'm not going to lie. When I heard about it, I pray for Stu Peters' soul. I'm not going to say I hate Stu Peters because I don't hate anybody. I just don't like Stu Peters a lot. I think he is one of the most vilest podcasters and the most vilest human beings, and the stuff that he says. He's even made a movie basically pushing his anti-Semitic views. It's a hate Israel documentary. It's a hate the Jews. The Jews control the world. The Jews are the cabal. The Jews and the Mossad are the most evil things. America's betrayed. And see, the irony of Stu Peters, he's turned on President Trump. He's called Trump the Antichrist, and he's called Trump a betrayer because Trump is supporting Israel. And see, Stu got his start by pushing President Trump in 2020. He was one of the main ones claiming 2020 was stolen. He was one of the main ones claiming that the COVID vaccine was bad. That's where you got the snake venom crap from. But when Trump showed support for Israel, Stu turned on him. So he believes Trump's the Antichrist now. He ain't the only one. There's spiritual voices out there believing that. So I'm not too fond of Stu. I do not believe it served Kash Patel well to go on those shows. Now, if Kash wanted to get seen and he was trying to get exposure, well, he got exposure. But that's a double-edged sword. And I've learned the hard way on this network, sometimes getting people on here for the sake of having a big name on your show ain't all it's cracked up to be. Because some of the bigger names we've had on this show have turned out to be a bunch of losers and a bunch of jerks, to be frank with you. And I would just rather have common day people. I would have Brad Johnson on my show every night if I could. I'd have James Akers on my show, Magdalene Rose, these people that we've had for the last 7 years. I'd say the last 2 years. We've had some of the best guests we've ever had in our life. I'd just rather have down-to-earth people. You know, I don't need a big name to come on this network. People want to watch us, they'll watch us. If they don't, they don't. It's all right with me. People out there worry about numbers. I don't worry about numbers. We are who we are. We've been here 7 years, and, you know, we're still here. By the help and the grace of God, we'll still be here another 7 if the Lord wants me here. But I think Kash may have learned a lesson that if you want to get exposure, you might better be careful who you get exposure with, because it's going to come back. That, I'm telling you, this Stu Peters thing is not going to go away. He needs to address it. He just needs to address it and get it over with and say, look, you know, I was at a different time, but I don't agree with the things Stu Peters believes. So that's my opinion. That's my opinion. And Liz, we've all made bad choices. If he'd been at Diddy's parties, the Dems wouldn't say anything. You know, I'll agree with that. I agree with that, Liz. That's actually true. That's actually true. That's actually true. If he'd have been at P. Diddy's party, you wouldn't have heard a word about that, would you? If he'd have been on Epstein's island, you wouldn't have heard a word about it. I mean, and again, folks, you think of the people that this bunch of jackanapes, and I could use another word, approved during the Biden years. And they didn't go through this. The Republicans didn't put these people through this hell that they do. Only the Democrats do it to the Republicans. And the Republicans let them do it. And the Republicans get scared and run for the hills, and they say, well, we can't vote for this person because something the Democrats threw up is true. Bullshit. Bullshit. Yeah, you can. Grab a pair.
Elementary, my dear Watson.
Elementary to me, my dear Watson. It's elementary to me, my dear Watson. Good point, Liz. Good point. Good point. Great point. Great point. Anyway, we've got a few less enthusiasts about Kash. We got a 96-4 thing on Kash. We had 99-1 with Robert F. Kennedy. All right, we got 5 minutes. You got a question? If you got a question, roll the tape. You got 5 minutes. Got to get out of here. We've had a good show tonight. Good show. And we'll have another one tomorrow night. We're gonna try to be a little more lighter tomorrow night. Unless the world ends overnight. We go to bed, we never know what we're going to wake up to the next morning these days. All righty. Any questions? If you got anything to say, you got any comments, rock and roll. Carol Smith is having second thoughts of flying. Should Trump keep the best controllers and temporarily limit flights till new hires? I'm with you, Carol. I don't know if I want to fly or not right now. I hate flying anyway. I'm not a big fan of it. But I tell you what, look, folks, it's a legitimate concern. It's a legitimate concern to ask, and it's a fair question to ask. It's not racism like these Dems are claiming, like CNN's claiming, that if you question the DEI hires, that somehow you're racist or you're discriminatory. You do not want to be putting a mentally impaired person in a air tower directing flights all over this country. And like Linda Baker said earlier tonight, it's one of the most grueling and most hardest jobs probably in this country. And it requires you to be mentally sober at all times. That controller last night, all they would have had to say to that helicopter, hey buddy, you got a plane in front of you, turn left, you're about to crash into a plane. How easy was that? Do you see the plane? That's incompetence. That's incompetence. I'm with you, Carol Smith. Good to see you tonight. Good to see you. Good to see you tonight. Anything else? Moral of the story, if Dems hate something, it's probably good for the country. Jeannie Casalanova. I will be I'm with you on that. I agree with that. Vicky, your statement about it being brought up, Kash needs to bring it up. Kash needs to renounce it. It needs to be brought up. He does not need to be associated whatsoever with Stu Peters. Period. I don't care about the Dems. It's something Kash needs to put to bed. And I think he needs to put it to bed for the people that support him. It ain't just for the people that are wanting to do something hard to him. As far as I'm concerned, of all the things I've heard about Kash Patel, when I heard that about him tonight, that bothered me. It bothered me. Stu Peters is an anti-Semitic, vile individual that needs Jesus Christ tonight. He does. He needs to meet the Savior. I've never seen more anti-Semitic, other than Candace Owens. Him and Candy should hook up and form their own podcast. The Jew haters of the world would love that. Between him and Candace Owens, I don't know if you could get two more vile anti-Semites than him and her. But I understand your point. Patel needs to bring it up. He needs to renounce it. That's my opinion. That's my opinion. And I think our poll is sort of showing that tonight because there's not as enthusiastic support for him as there was RFK. Susan says, does it actually take this long for cabinets? No, it does not. Its delay is only due to it being President Trump's. Susan, that is an excellent question. These picks should be in place by Inauguration Day. They could have done this back in December. They did it for Obama. They did recess appointments. Mitch McConnell stood in the way of this with the Republicans. Mitch needs to retire. And again, this is what drives us out here in the public crazy with politicians. If it was anybody else, if it was a Democrat in office, these people would have already been in place. And see, when we have events like we had last night, it is a reminder, a stark reminder why a government needs to be fully functioning at all times from day one. Because you don't know what's going to happen 10 days in to a presidency. He needs a DNI. Walt said it this morning. Not Tim, but Michael, the head of the National Security Agency. He said that we need a director of DNI because we're about to come against cartels. We're fighting the cartels down along the border. We've got a threat from China. We've got threats from Syria. We've got threats from the Middle East. And we got a war in Ukraine and Russia we need to get fixed and settled. And we need a DNI head. That's why they are delaying Tulsi Gabbard, because they want this protracted crap to keep going on as long as they can so they can blame Trump. Just like they blamed him for the air crash last night, trying to lay it on him that it's the FAA, it's his fault. The FAA is incompetent. And Liz, I think you were the one that said the statement about Pete Buttigieg. It made me sick to my stomach too, and I may find that statement and read it. It was a disgusting, vile attack on Trump. Somebody responded to it, and they said what I would like to say on this program tonight, but it's sort of adult, and I'm not going to say it. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed the show.
Elementary, my dear Watson.
Elementary, my dear Watson. Listen, I'll see you back here in the morning on the Face side. One more Bible study this week. And if there's any breaking news, we'll break in tomorrow. But tomorrow night, same time, around 9:30, we'll be back. And we'll take your questions again. Did you enjoy the show? Put some fire in that house. I'm grateful you've been with me. Thank you for all the questions and things. The final tally was 97-3. And we had about the number, we didn't have as many votes, 38 votes. 38 votes. And Geraldine, you're right. We got to wait for the vote. They were supposed to have confirmed Pam Bondi today, but they didn't do that. It's politics. It's politics at its ugliest, and it's sad. May God bless you out there tonight. God bless this nation. God bless you. We love you all. We appreciate you for being with us. Thank you for the donations. Thank you for helping us financially. Thank you for listening to the McFiles. We've had a good time doing this. These last couple of years have been good stuff. We've had a ball. And free as a bird. Woo! Feels good. Grateful for you being with us tonight. And take care. We'll see you back here. Same bat time, same bat channel tomorrow. Have a good night, everybody. Be blessed. Pray for your country, and our prayers once again for those that have been killed in this terrible, terrible crash over Washington, D.C. last night. We'll have more on that updated story tomorrow. Have a good night, everybody.